So look, I think we need to just have a come to Jesus moment here and realize and admit that Pam Blondie is a liar, right? She is a full-fledged liar. She has, in my opinion, little to no credibility as a result of her lies about one of the most high-profile criminal cases ever, the Jeffrey Epstein sex scandal, something that has captivated the attention of people not just here in the United States, but all around the world.
So, will we never get the Jeffrey Epstein files that are under lock and key? Well, that is the question Laura Loomer wants answers to. But the only person that can answer that question, Attorney General Pam Bondi, isn't delivering. Now, Cenk, as we talked about, Laura Loomer seems to have control in every other aspect of the White House. So do you think she'll be able to get these files released?
No, the Epstein files are one of the most interesting things going on in the US government now. Why? Because of their importance? Well, they're very important and I want them released. God knows what they're doing with them now. But more so because it is showing a lot of MAGA, not a little number of folks that voted for Trump. A lot of them are going, oh, I guess that everyone was liars. Pam Bondi was a liar, Trump was a liar, because they said day one, Kash Patel's a liar. They said day one, this is a day 108. And the only thing they could possibly be doing is scrubbing those files as we speak.
Yes.
Right? So, but this fight though is important because they're not holding the line. In the past, they would always hold the line. Pam Bondi's not a liar. Those lines are obviously true. And they would have flipped already. And they would have been like, Epstein was an upstanding citizen. Of course, Trump shouldn't release his files. This could hurt people, etc. But they're not doing that. They're looking to rip somebody's face off because these files haven't been released and aren't gonna be released. And they're beginning to realize, oh, maybe that Trump's also a politician.
So this lateness is something that Laura Loomer is taking very personally. Take a look at this.
And usually you hear all these canned responses from politicians that just go ahead and defend Pam Blondie, right? And they say, oh, Pam Blondie's doing such a great job. It's like, all this circle jerk bull. Oh yeah, she's so amazing. Oh my God, she's so great. Blah, 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 right? Yeah, she's not so great. Trust me, guys. She's not really doing such a great job. First, she said that the files were on her desk, right? And then she had that ridiculous binder gate situation at the White House where she made all these crazy binders that were not even full of Epstein documents and had these influencers essentially run a state media campaign for her where they waved these binders around pretending like they were given Epstein files by Pam Blondie. Well, it turns out there's really nothing in the binder. Then she goes on Fox News and says, oh, the files are on my desk right now. Then she tells Mark Levin that the files are being delivered to my office in a truck. So they were on her desk, but then they weren't on her desk. And then they were delivered to her office in a truck. And then the big bad boogeymen over at the deep state were trying to sabotage her and they lied to her about the real Epstein documents. And then they were going to be released at a later date. But now, right, we don't know.
So she's not the only one who thinks that. We have more.
I hope James has the Epstein files because I don't think the Department of Justice has them, or at least the Attorney General does not have them, or she would have turned them over. The president ordered them released. The Attorney General ordered them released. We all know they have not been released. And one of my biggest fears that I had, and I expressed this with Kash Patel and a lot of people, Stephen Miller, and a lot of people going into the new administration. I'm like, I hope they're not shredding documents right now. This was a few weeks before the transition. I said, I hope they're not shredding documents, but you all need to go on that first day and try to get all this stuff released because, my fear is from what I've dealt with in investigations and in communication with this deep state apparatus is they're probably in there shredding documents as we speak.
And there are a ton more. Let's skip to the fifth video, the last video. There's a ton more right wingers out there who are complaining about Pam Bondi and the Epstein files. Let's take a look at this.
I have full faith in Kash Patel and AG Bondi to deliver those files, but I want to be very clear about something. The American people want the truth. We don't want redactions. And although we are same team, I'm going to continue to press for that transparency because that is exactly what the American people asked for when they elected President Trump.
Even if it was 10 pages, people would be screaming and cheering. 10 pages, names redacted of victims, and information explaining what Epstein was doing, confirming some details, even if it was the slightest confirmation. People would say, thank you.
James O'Keefe's, one of the two big stories he's breaking is about someone in the Trump administration covering up Epstein. I made some phone calls, and I told the crew over the weekend, I said, it's Pam Bondi. According to my sources.
When you promise something to me, and you guys know where I stand when it comes to children and what they've done to children, and you just nailed it. The number one accuser of Epstein, of Ghislaine Maxwell, of Prince Andrew, the last one, she suicided herself.
I don't know what to make of it, Cenk. They all seem pretty upset, and their job is to tell Trump that he's right about everything. I don't know.
Yeah, look, again, two parts of this story. The fact that they're all pissed is great news. It's great news on a couple of fronts. One, they should be pissed. There was a giant lie about the Epstein files. I think the Epstein files are actually really important. And so did Epstein use blackmail on politicians? It's a super important question, right? I mean, I'm not sure that it gets more important than that. So the fact that they're not letting it go is great news. But equally important is, this is not the cult you knew back in 2016. I know when I said that, everybody got super mad. Oh, no way, you're doing something. No, guys, here they are. How many do we have to show you? 5, 10, 15, 20? So if they're not all turned on Trump, and they're not saying that, we regret, we're crying, we wish we voted for Kamala Harris. Of course that's not gonna happen, right? They're MAGA, they're conservatives, right? But they're beginning to realize that maybe, just maybe, that Trump and the people in the Trump administration might be full of crap. That is an awesome development, a wonderful development. So, I mean, in the past, they would have never called out somebody like Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, when Trump is still 100% on her side, calling her Pam Blondie, the liar. And I love that they're waking up to the fact that, it turns out politicians might be liars. Of course, but in the past, they would have said, yeah, that's true of the Uniparty, and they might have even said it of Mitch McConnell, et cetera, right? Of the establishment Republicans, but they would have never said it about Trump. They would have never said it about MAGA people, and now they're saying it left and right and center. They're saying it everywhere. I got more on that, but you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, it's just like I don't know if they're a different cult than they were before. I think they're just that same group of people that still believe that there's secret cabals of people doing horrible stuff to kids and drinking adrenochrome from their kidneys or wherever adrenochrome comes from. It's just they've had enough time to entertain the notion that maybe Trump's a politician. And he was able to be like, hey, I'm the alternative to the insider cabal because I've never been president before. And now he's been president for a grand total of 4 years and 100 days. And in their estimation, whatever it is, like 8 years and 100 days. And maybe they're just like, where are those files? I want to read them, so to speak. I'd rather not read them. I'd rather have Alex Jones give me the Cliff's Notes on them. But some of them are gonna take those. But what's crazy to me is that they always thought Trump was the solution to this stuff, even though there's tons of photos of Trump with these people. And like, the answer electorally is to get them to get so disenchanted by Donald Trump, they go back to not voting at all, or switch sides. One thing is easier than the other. I think those are the two possibilities.
Yeah, I hear you, Brett, but look, think about the entire spectrum. So you're talking about hardcore QAnon guys, right?
Yeah.
And that is a shockingly high 15% of the country. It makes me despair of humanity that it's 15% of the country, right? So that's a big, big number. So I forget if it's 15 of the country or the Republicans, but either way, it's a giant number, right? But Trump got 51% of the vote, right? A little bit over 51%. So there's an enormous part of that political spectrum that voted for Trump that isn't QAnon, right? And that thought, he's anti-establishment. And I know the establishment guys are full of crap, right? So he seems like he's authentic because he says crazy stuff, right? And that seems authentic. And I hate inflation and immigration, I'm voting for that. Those guys, we can definitely win back. And the fact that some of them are also waking up and going, yeah, not what I bargained for, right? I didn't know they didn't know. And for us, it seems crazy. How could you not know that Donald Trump's a liar, right? And a con man. But they didn't know because that's not the media they got.
Right, yeah.
Right? But look at now the change, right? So even Laura Loomer, who's genuinely a little nutso, right? And I'll come back to my disagreements with her in a second, and my agreements, interestingly. But she's like, oh yeah, what's Pam Blondie gonna do? Blame the boogeyman deep state? So now they're saying that the deep state's an excuse. I mean, I never thought I'd see. I didn't think that would happen, right? The deep state is BS, and an excuse for not doing the thing you're supposed to do.
Yeah,
that's a great development.
Right. My pitch to them, and the only reason I say that it's more like QAnon is because it's an Epstein thing, right? Like this is an Epstein story, so that's explicitly what it's about. It's not like tell me about how come a shoe factory closed, and they're like because they need the rubber for the adrenochrome extraction. Like that's different. But in this scenario, I just think I have an easier time getting people to come around on points when I go, you get to believe what you believed before. Because before this, you thought that all billionaires were corrupt weirdos living in a cabal and giving each other favors and covering stuff up for each other. What if I told you, if you dislike Donald Trump and Elon Musk, you could go right back to believing everything you believed in the past? Because what's more likely? That this one billionaire, these two billionaires are the exception, but meanwhile the other billionaires flocked to him the minute he said, like, I'm not gonna go after you guys. That or is it more likely that all the billionaires are acting the same way you always thought they did, and Donald Trump is no exception?
Yeah. So last things on this for Loomer. Look, she hates Muslims and she says she's a proud Islamophobe, etc. But do I agree with her on the Epstein files? I do. See, you could massively disagree, as much disagreement as possible, 100%. I grew up Muslim, my family's Muslim. Saying that that you're an Islamophobe and you hate or fear Muslims is terrible. It can't get worse, right? What am I gonna do? Agree to? Oh yeah, you all should hate me? No, of course. I disagree with that 100%. But that doesn't mean she's wrong about the Epstein files. Like two things can be true at the same time, guys. So take some wins, take some yeses for an answer when they agree with us. And then the funniest defense of Trump, by the way, on social media was he's just doing this to protect Democrats. Yeah, Trump's a well-known Democrat protector, so that's probably the right answer. I mean, if you're gonna come up with a flimsy excuse, do better than that. And finally, if you thought they were angry about all this, Kash Patel just said in hearings today that he's like, oh no, Epstein was definitely a suicide.
Yeah.
Oh, they're not gonna like that because it is unlikely to be a suicide. And certainly MAGA thinks it's very, very unlikely to be a suicide. So that is not gonna play well, and I'm looking forward to that tomorrow. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.